All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Zoning Board for December 19th, 2024. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, welcome, everyone, to our last board meeting of this calendar year. So let's start by introductions, please, all the way to my far left.
Jason Regani.
Richard Tripp.
Crystal Morin, Secretary.
I would be Lynn Perkins, the chair.
Craig Corbett, Vice Chair.
Donald Burgess, member.
Jim Dietzel.
And all the way to our far right is Code Enforcement Officer Robert Mackey, and our clerk is Lucy Peoples, I'm sorry, and she's taking the minutes for the evening. And please just note that these proceedings are audio-video recorded, scheduled to end at 10 p.m. And in the event of an emergency, please exit to the rear room. Someone will help you, and then shut off all cell phones, iPads, iPhones, any electronic devices that could create a disturbance to the proceedings. Okay? That being said, I think we're all set for our first case of the evening, which would be case number 24-138, Rockingham Cycle. This case is tabled from 12/5/2024. Gentlemen?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I made some revisions.
All right, well, I'll have you sit, please.
Okay.
And good evening.
Good evening.
And
My name is Ed.
my realization is that you are on the zoning board in Salem.
Yes,
Yes.
18 years.
And it's always interesting how different communities run their meetings, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, it is. All right. Please introduce yourself, and I'll give you the floor.
I'm Ed Humanick. I'm with Rockingham Cycle. Sitting to my right is Joe LaRosa, who's the owner of Rockingham Cycle.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I made some slight revisions to the 5 criteria that I submitted. I'd like to hand these out.
If you could do us a favor,
Yeah.
our policies are typically to take those on as an advisement as
Okay.
opposed to a late submission. So
Yeah.
we ask that all documents be in relatively soon so we don't have
Right.
to digest them on the fly. If we get to a point where you feel it's hedging on the decision, we'll take it up and we can review it, but also could mean that we table it
Okay.
for the chance to review. So if you'd like to reference them, if we have questions, we can come back to them. How's
Okay,
that?
thank you.
You're welcome.
On behalf of Rockingham Cycle, we submitted a variance application to allow a motorcycle repair and service facility at 2 Island Pond Road in Derry, New Hampshire. I'll give you a brief introduction to the property and to Rockingham Cycle. As you all know, the property is located at 2 Island Pond Road, map B, lot 05053-001. The property is approximately 21.36 acres. It's located in the West Running Brook Road district. There are 2 buildings on the property. The first building, which we are in, is a 12,447 square foot wood frame structure, which, according to the assessor's tax card, was built in 1949. The second building is 12,240 square feet high bay metal building. There was no date of the construction on the assessor's card. Rockingham Cycle has been in business for over 30 years. Our scope of services include routine maintenance, tune-ups, tires, safety inspections, batteries, electrical problems, and adding accessories. We do not build custom motorcycles. We do not perform any welding, fabrication, painting, or machine shop work. These services are all sent to other shops. In the packet I submitted, we had to go in front of the planning board, and I attach a brief description for the planning board's review. The relief sought. We are seeking a variance from section 165.32.4B of permitted uses in the Westbrook Road district to operate a motorcycle and repair shop. We address the variance criteria. The variance will not be contrary to the public interest. The granting of this variance will not violate the basic purposes of the West Running Brook Zoning Board District, which encourages a mix of land uses and small-scale retail commercial. The granting of the variance will not alter the characteristics of the neighborhood. The proposed use will utilize an existing building that was constructed in 1949. The proposed use is comparable with the surrounding area, which consists of a mix of commercial facilities such as gas stations, fast food restaurants, used vehicle sales, and residential uses. The variance will not increase traffic. Rockingham Cycle's prime season is from March to November. During this period, it will generate an average of 3 to 4 customers a day, generally by appointment, and 2 daily deliveries by UPS or FedEx, which do not spend more than 10 minutes on the site. Given the services offered and the location of the property in a hollow not visible from South Main Street and barely visible from Island Pond Road, we do not anticipate generating any drive-by traffic. The granting of the variance will not alter, overcrowd, or overdevelop the area. The proposed use will utilize a portion of the space that was home to the Grandview Flea Market for over 40 years. The granting of the variance will conserve the value of the existing building, which has been vacant for a number of years. Spirit of the ordinance is observed. In granting this variance to allow our proposed use, this district allows by right more intensive uses such as banks, hotels, inns, manufacturing facilities, restaurants, is not contrary to the spirit, as it is more compatible than the allowed uses, as it is less intensive. Excuse me. Substantial justice is done. The variance will cause no harm to the public, which outweighs the benefit of the property owner. It's a less intensive use than those allowed in the district, will not generate any additional traffic, noise, or pollution, will not have any significant adverse impact on any individual neighbor. The proposed use is consistent with the surrounding area. The West Running Brook Road District went into effect in 2019. I looked at the zoning ordinance in 2018 prior to the zoning change. And it's interesting that the allowed uses prior to the zoning change included automobile repair and automobile service stations. These uses were eliminated from the new West Running Brook District. Property owner purchased the property in 1980, 39 years before the zoning change. Prior to the zoning change, we are proposing that a motorcycle repair facility may have been allowed use. Therefore, we believe there would be no significant harm to the property owners if the variance is done. The value of the surrounding properties will not be diminished. There will be no major exterior changes to the building. The proposed use will not generate any additional traffic, noise, or environmental concerns. The proposed use will increase the value of the property that's been vacant for a number of years and will increase the property value as well as increase the tax base of the town. The proposed use is compatible with the area, which again consists of mixed commercial uses such as gas stations, fast food restaurants, used vehicle sales, and residential sales. The proposed use in this district, which allows by right more intensive uses such as banks, hotels, inns, manufacturing facilities, and restaurants, will not diminish the values of the surrounding properties. Literal enforcement of the provisions of this ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. So what are the special conditions of this property? First, we looked at what was the purpose of the West Running Brook District. The provisions of Article 5, Section 165.32.4 do not wholly exclude commercial business use. It merely calls out specific permitted types of uses and preserve and retain the unique character that differs the property from other commercial districts in the town. The site is composed of 21 acres with 2 buildings. As I mentioned earlier, the first building was built in 1949. The property at 2 Island Pond Road has been used commercially for over 5 decades. The property and the zoning, which pre-existed the implementation of the West Running Brook Road District in 2019 and again revised in 2022, are one of the unique characteristics of this property. The proposed use does not benefit by will not benefit by drive-by traffic and does not create traffic like many of the abutting properties, which range from approximately 50 to 150 feet from the road. The character of this property is and has been commercial in nature. Our use is small-scale retail commercial, which will revitalize an existing building as outlined earlier, and will not create traffic and noise. Given that this is not a ground-up redevelopment of the property, but a revitalization of an existing building built in 1949, it would be difficult to create what looks like you're trying to do a village feel by not having a ground-up renovation, destructions of the buildings, and a ground-up renovation. So we believe that the hardship of the property is the fact that given the use of over 40 years as a retail commercial site, and considering a zoning change, that one of the unique characteristics of this property is the fact that it did go through a zoning change. And that's why we're seeking relief. We believe the proposed use is a reasonable one, given that the ordinance provides for more intensive uses. We went to the planning board, and I thank you for postponing us to this meeting. There were questions raised about traffic and noise. We went to our 3 abutters in Wyndham. I have letters I can give to the board from the abutters that they have never had issues with traffic, noise, and have never seen group rides, either beginning or ending at the former location on 117 Rockingham Road in Wyndham. We also have a letter from the chief of police of the town of Wyndham that indicates that he has never had any complaints about noise, group rides, ending or beginning there. And there was a question about sound. As you all know, that property sits in a hollow, we'll call it, okay? When you take the driveway down, you go down probably 50 or 100 feet, if not more. And so we believe that from a sound point of view, even if you have a motorcycle outside of the shop and start it up and rev the engine, you probably will not hear it from the street. I took all of the abutters and did a list of the distances of each residential house and or business from the building. They range from 583 feet being the closest, 568 feet being the closest, which is a property at One Island Pond Road, to the farthest being 1,289 feet from, for a property that's actually Rigatoni's, and then there's another one which was 3R Island Pond Road, a residence of Josephine and Joseph Pinella. And that property is set back farther off the road, and it's closer to Route 28 than it is to Island Pond Road. With regard to sound, as you all know that, and I'm not a sound expert, I'm an accountant, okay? We're looking at, part of the services we offer is state inspections. And part of that service, according to state law, is Mr. La Rosa has to measure the decibel sound of the motorcycle, and it doesn't pass inspection if the sound is too loud. The average decibel rating of that motorcycle ranges from 85 to 100 to 120, and I'm using the 120 if in fact it has larger accessory pipes on it. I did a quick calculation with regard to what would the closest house here, they're 568 feet. At 85 decibels, they would hear decibels of 29.91, which would be soft sounds like a quiet bedroom or night or whispering. At 100 decibels, at 568 feet, they would have a decibel rating of 44.91, which would be, according to the charts, rainfall or normal conversation. And at 568, at 120 decibels, which is far and above over state law, At 568 feet, it would have a decibel rating of normal conversation, and which would be considered a safe decibel level. If you have any questions?
Open the board for questions. Anybody wish to lead off? No gestures there. Mr. Dragani?
No, thank.
No, Mr. Tripp?
The, so you have a, you're basically sharing a building with the building supply company?
Yes, Stiletto Construction, yes, and Builders Reserve. They're our
And-
immediate next-door neighbor.
And you've been there since September 1st?
Yes.
So,
I-
how did you
I-
find out that you needed a variance?
Unfortunately, yes.
What?
Unfortunately,
No,
yes.
how did you find out?
I think the,
I was notified by, I want to say the lady's name, maybe Barbara or Beverly, came down.
Somebody from the town?
Someone from the town, yes, came down. They introduced themselves, they said, you need variances, you need to go in front of the board. I had no idea, I thought I was good to go. The owner never told me that I needed to do this, so here I am.
There you are, you know.
same situation that Builders Reserve and Stiletto Construction found them in.
I guess since the ordinance says that you have to go in front of the planning board,
Yes,
so you explained to them what you intend to do, just like you did us?
yes, and I gave them a detailed, which is in your packet, a detailed write-up as to what Rockingham Cycle does. I got a 5-4 vote, affirmative vote from the planning board.
I
In
read that.
addition, I forgot one of the abutters' letters. The question was raised of a wheelie in the parking
again?
lot. There was a photograph
Burnout.
of a burnout, okay, in the parking lot. And there was concerns that that was done by a motorcycle. I have a letter from the owner of Stiletto Construction saying that he was there when that burnout was made. It was made by a black Dodge Charger with Massachusetts plates, well before the opening, the daily opening of Rockingham Cycle.
Whereabouts in the building location, you know, when you're talking about decibels and noise, whereabouts on this building footprint are you located?
There's a footprint in your packet.
Yep,
We're on the far, if you're looking down the road, down the driveway, we're in the far right end of the building.
you're on the far right hand.
Right end, yeah. See
Is
it?
that all the way around the back?
No,
Thank you.
it's in the.
Right in front.
It's right in front.
Thank you.
It provided you a photo and a floor plan.
With the, in front where the old concession stands and area was, I think, in that respect.
How much of that area are you taking up? All of that? I mean, it looks like 29 by 78 feet. Is
Yes.
that your space?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is this where the old, you remember Ernie Ellis, Mr. Mackey? He had a shop in there. I think he was selling lockers or something. Is that his space? Are you familiar with that at all?
Not ringing a bell.
How about you, gentlemen? Any familiarity with that?
I thought it was previously occupied by Revised Furniture, maybe?
Okay. Well, I think they had a different portion of the building.
Okay.
So, what exactly are you asking for?
We need a variance for the use of a motorcycle repair facility.
I'm glad that you understand that.
Yes.
You know, because we've had people come before us and they really didn't understand what they were asking for.
Yeah.
But the problem that I see here is the West Running Brook District is such a interesting place, and that nothing is really permitted until, like the ordinance says, you come before the planning board,
Yes.
and if you succeed there, then you come to see us.
Yeah, there
I don't think that's, I don't find that strange. You know, we have Tuscan Village in Salem.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a very unique situation.
And, but I think it has some parallels with this property, because Tuscan Village
Yeah.
Rockingham Park remained vacant for a number of years. And everybody would come in and say, oh, we think we're going to do this. And the planning board spent a year and a half, 2 years crafting an overlay district there. And as one of the planning board members, and as one of the Derry planning board members said, there's been 4 or 5 proposals where people come in and say, would like to do this major project, but his quote was, nobody ever showed up with a check. Okay, so I think the understanding here is that, I think that zoning is a great idea, okay, because I look at what Tuscan Village has done for Salem. But the question is, when you have existing buildings, how do you get there from here?
Yeah.
Well, I think the glitch, to piggyback off of Mr. Tripp's point, which is it's one thing that you would need a variance, it's another thing that you need a variance that has to be reviewed by a planning board prior. It seems a little awkward in my view. I don't know if that's exactly where Mr. Tripp was going, but it certainly slows the process down, but it also opens up other questions that may be significant in watching the planning board meeting and your presentation there. Some of the questions that were raised and kind of reflected that the planning board, some of the members didn't understand how the scope of this board operated. So I find that there's a little bit of a conflict there. I understand that their intentions, what they were. However, I think we're going to get to answer some of their questions that they brought up during your time there. Mr. Tripp, I'll yield if I overstepped on you.
No, that's fine.
Whereabouts, as you're bringing these, let's talk about how your operation is going to be on a daily basis, starting with how motorcycles get into this building. I looked at this a couple of weeks ago, but then I haven't looked back at it again. Mr. Corbett helped refresh my memory, but how do you get motorcycles into this section to work on them?
Into the building itself?
Yeah,
There's a garage door there.
and is that all the way around to the right?
No, it's right in the front of
It
the,
is, okay.
front of the building. It should be visible in the picture that was provided in the
Got it.
packet.
So we have a supplement from an abutter. Did anybody happen to remember her name? Yeah, Miss Acorn.
Butterfield. I think it was.
Acorn, okay. And, she's concerned about the noise, and you're speaking to that, although I'm not quite satisfied that meets what she's looking for. But I'm finding that she's on the back side of the building. Decibel range and distance, right? And I've actually walked that road this afternoon, but further on down towards Cemetery Road. And
She's behind the building, and she is 973 feet
got it.
from our facility. The letters that we have from our abutters in Wyndham, 100 feet from the shop.
Is it your contention that motorcycles that come in to get inspected are going to have to meet that decibel requirement, and essentially that her location exceeds any distance that decibel level could affect?
I think due to the distance and the fact that she's behind
Building.
our building, plus the metal building, the high bay metal building, probably will not hear anything.
Down the right-hand side of that building, there's a tree line, am I correct? And it really
Yes.
is not passable down the right-hand side of that building, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. I've been in that building, a few different sections, which is beneficial just for this board and anybody else who may have happened to walk the site. So I just want to refamiliarize myself with this. During your time there, you've been there since September?
First,
Yeah. I'm sorry?
September 1st.
First, yeah. I've been in and around that property, and I noticed that tractor trailers have come in, 54-foot box trailers on, 18-wheelers, so to speak. Have those still been occurring while you've been there?
Those would be deliveries for my neighbor next door, Stiletto Construction and Builders Reserve. And there is somebody that does park there truck on the property also.
Yeah. And, but my experience has been that I've seen tractor trailers, 18-wheelers come in and they go all the way around down to the back and then they back up to this building. And I think my reference to this other business that's been there, I think since the early 2000s, but may have vacated it by now, just speaks to the point that Mr. Humanek has brought forward, is that this was in existence before the zoning adoption had occurred. And I know that there's been other heavy equipment and whatnot stored there from time to time, and has been going on there for 20 years as well. And I think, to emphasize my point, I still need to stay in the question area, but
Right.
just for a reference to the other board members, I think the adoption of the West Running Brook District that the planning board is, some members were vocal about, perhaps didn't realize what was going on that property prior to this. And I think your testimony supports that the adoption of this in 2019 and then 21 essentially curbs certain uses out that were already in place
Yes.
at that time. I'm going to rest for a minute. If anybody else has any questions, I can come back with more, but Mr. Corbett, anything?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, where you went with the end of that point was something I had noted as well regarding the prior potential nonconforming use of the property. A question I had, for the applicants, somewhat understanding what you guys are looking for, I thought it was relatively straightforward, and somewhat understanding the entire business. Do the workers require specific licenses, or do any of your workers require specific licenses for the work that will be taking place?
The only thing I need is a certification through the state of New Hampshire to do inspections.
The hours are, when you talk about the hours, sure, they're,
My hours are Monday to Friday, 10 to 5, and Saturday would be 10 to 2. Sunday's closed.
and generally, the clients come in right there by appointment.
I think I genuinely, I share the concern, and I saw the question rise about the tire tracks, as somebody referred to them as burnouts. And to be honest with you, one of the things that troubles me is that the point that you've just made, that the owner of Stiletto signed off on, which was that it was a out-of-state car that was, so to speak, somewhat vagrant in the parking lot, doing destruction to private property and didn't belong there. And that sometimes comes with growth, that you start to draw in a different element of populace into an area that might start to exercise activities that we would normally not want to see there.
Or if the property is vacant, or if they perceive it to be vacant.
Yes, and I think that it's nice to see that, I can see that Stiletto has started to work down there and probably help preserve some things. I think at one point, the front stairs of that building were deteriorating and breaking through. And I think that when you have someone who's not on the property all the time, not recognizing deterioration, I think it can exacerbate problems, not solve problems, which I know that the planning board and all of us in the community have strived to have more commercial development. Although sometimes with something so historic, cast in concrete, as a lot of segments of this town have, it's hard to recognize those deteriorations and try to correct it with some different aspirations. Mr. Burgess, Mr. Corbett,
No, just to say, I apologize, forget, what's your name again?
Humanick.
Mr. Humanek, I
You're
agree.
getting like me.
Yeah, that's getting bad. I haven't called him something else yet, though. I did agree to Mr. Humanek's point when I saw the photos. That was a thought that I had as well. As I looked at it, that I'd be surprised if there were people, doing something with occupants there. I would see that as, something happens in more of a vacant lot. I'll defer to Mr. Burgess.
Mr. Burgess?
I don't have anything at the moment.
Okay. Mr. Dietzel, any comments?
I have a question. One of the concerns I have, and one that was brought up by the planning board, and in your former venue in Wyndham, Mr. Feinauer states that this is a gathering spot for motorcycles as seen in the random photos taken by the Wyndham Tax Assessor's Office, as well as a starting point for group rides. Is that accurate?
No, it's not.
Do we gather there on our way up to Laconia once a year? Or?
No, sir.
No, sir. And we have letters from the abutters and the police chief that say that they have never seen or experienced any group rides, either starting or ending on the property.
So to Mr. Dietzel's point, I'll come right back to you, Mr. Dietzel. How do you curb that and give assurances that that doesn't occur here?
Well, it hasn't happened in the last 30 years, and I really don't see it happening in the next few years. I guess nothing is a given, but I'm just going on that it's not a hang-around place. I'm a one-man shop. 99% of my business is planned, that they call, they make an appointment. I say, come in on Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning, drop off the motorcycle, pick it up Wednesday night, or pick it up, Thursday morning or whatever. And, I do have a few drive-ins, naturally for inspection stickers. They'll drive in, but they'll be on the property for no more than 20 minutes to half an hour.
Mr. Dietzel, back to you.
I'm looking at a photograph here, and I don't know if it was one of the random photographs that was taken by the tax assessor or where it came from, but it clearly shows.
That came from the Wyndham Tax Assessor site. I reviewed
I
it.
see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I think 9 motorcycles parked out front. Is that normal, or is that
You can count one of those motorcycles my own. The ones that are facing out are the ones that are finished and to be driven out, and the other ones are ones that I still need to be working on.
Okay, because I don't see riders there gathering and,
It's-
milling
it was-
about or preparing for a ride.
I'm sorry, it's a small shop, and there's really no place for them to sit or hang around. I have no waiting area. The building was only 30 by 30, 2 floors, so there's no waiting room or anything like that for them. And I don't do appointments like that. It's a drop-off and pick-up service.
Thank you, Mr. LaRosa. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You bet. Anything else? Mr. Dragani?
I'm good.
I got some questions.
Mr. Tripp?
All right, when you were in Wyndham,
Wyndham,
you were there, you said 30 years,
30 plus,
and you were renting.
yes.
And the thing that caused you to come to Derry was the building sold?
The building was sold.
The building was sold, and the new owner said that you have to go someplace else.
Yes, he wanted the building for his own use.
Yeah. Do you have a lease with the current owner of the property at,
Yes, I do.
do you have a longevity, or is this a annual
It's a 2-year lease.
2-year lease? So, the thing that I was thinking is, that is an attractive piece of land. As you said, it was 21 acres or so. Do you have any idea of the longevity that you'll be allowed to stay there?
I would imagine it would be renewable if the current owner still owns it at the time.
Yeah.
I'm only looking for 2, 3, maybe 4 more years, and then I would like to retire myself.
Oh, well, so longevity is not an issue then. So you just want to get in there and continue your business.
Do my thing and downsize and,
And,
yes.
in 2 or 3 years, he can have the building back.
right.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
How is it that you came about to find this location?
The owner's worker was a customer of mine, and he told me, he says, I guess Mr. Taylor was going to sell the building, had a supposedly deposit on the building, and it fell through, and our monies were refunded, and Marty took the building back, and he says the building is available. And at that time, Builders Reserve also moved in at the same time, just about I did, actually before me, because they were vacated from their previous place also.
Okay. Let's take a look at the points or considerations that the planning board asked us to review with you, if you don't mind, Mr. Humanek.
Sure.
Is there anything there that stands out that would have concern for you that you feel we need to address, or, and likewise for the board on the planning board comments and concerns? Is there anything reflective from there that anybody thinks that we need to review? Mr. Humanek, I'll start with you.
Okay, just let me, bear with me here while I get the letter out.
And if you want to just leave it to us to decipher through it, we can do that
Nope,
as well.
that's fine. I have a memo from Elizabeth Robideau. Let's see, one member of the planning board stated that although use is not permitted in the zone, it was a seasonal business and a good use for underutilized property. One member stated it was a large lot at a busy intersection. It would be nice to have a business located in the space. This member did not see any harm in allowing the business. One member felt that when the lot got redeveloped, the use would support other retail uses while customers were waiting for services to be completed. This is a small business which meets the vision of the district. One member stated that although this lot does not lend itself to walkability, given its current configuration, since this business was serviced by appointment only, he felt it was a good addition and did not see a problem with the use. One member felt that this type of business would foster and support other businesses in the area. Next bullet point, one member noted that this is a flexible district with mixed-use vision, stores, entertainment, etc., and sometimes the vision can't be executed with no redevelopment opportunities available for this lot at this time. He did not see the harm in allowing this business. Several members of the planning board stated that the use was not suitable for the district and did not conform to the intent of the district. Several members were concerned with potential noise. One member felt the board should adhere to the WRB guidelines and not waive the rules. During the roll call vote, the members who voted no stated the following reason: does not meet the intent of the district. The guidelines of the district should be followed, and the use has potential to change the character of the district. Then there was a memo from a planning board member that talked about incompatibility with the district, noise and environmental issues, site-specific concerns, a large parking lot. I've attached a photo taken on Sunday. That is the photo of the burnout. And then gets into a discussion of precedents for variances, which, as I tell my board, we don't set precedents. Every application sits on its own.
Yeah, I remember seeing that as well, and I'm glad that you spoke to that point. Did you provide us a list of the exact type of work that you do? Is that in here?
There's a scope of
Yeah. the scope of work.
services that I
thought I
provide.
saw that. So you don't do any machining? Are you doing any welding?
No, sir.
Nope. We do not perform any welding, fabrication, painting, or machine shop work. Those are all sent out to other shops.
Machining, welding, painting, what was the other thing?
We do not perform any welding, fabrication, painting, or machine shop work.
Fabrication was it, okay. And you could stand by that from here till the next 4 years while you occupy and beyond?
Yes.
Essentially, it just sounds like you're doing lube oil and filters and headlight changes and maybe some upfit of some accessories and state inspections?
Correct. Tires,
light
electrical
duty stuff?
problems.
You change tires too?
Yes.
Okay. So we're not seeing any contaminants being released out of here, correct?
Correct.
Did the question get proposed? Are there any floor drains on this? I think,
Yes, that was asked. There are no floor drains in the building.
okay, so we have all contamination could be contained within the cement floor and not let out into leach into the environment or West Running Brook.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have anything else they want to ask or Mr. Tripp?
Well, I'm waiting for the public
big-
comment.
you're waiting for deliberative?
No, public comment.
Oh, got it, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, been a long week.
Well, it is Thursday.
It is, I know. We still have 5 days to go. All right, you gentlemen have anything else you wish to add at this time?
No, sir.
Any questions more from the board?
Nope.
Mr. Mackey, care to share and enlighten us? Give us your impressions?
Well, you pretty much touched on everything I had to comment on.
Okay.
Other than, obviously, this is West Runningbrook District, which is kind of unique in that if you're not in on that list of permitted uses and you need to seek a variance, and the first step is to go to the planning board and this, to get the comment, which the board obviously just went through. Beyond that, were this to be approved, I do have a state motorcycle inspection license request pending with the town, but obviously that's dependent on the outcome of this hearing, so.
Okay. All right, well, very good, thank you. All right, well, if there's nothing else from the board or from the applicants, let's make a call to, the procedural call to the public. We're going to have some phone numbers posted up there. Mr. Corbett, you're welcome to read those in for the record.
Yep, anybody at home who wishes to dial in, you're going to dial 646-558-8656. Your meeting ID is 323-909-140. Once in, you're going to press *9 to raise your hand. And anybody having any technical issues, you're going to dial 603-845-5585, and someone will help you.
Very good. And those phone numbers are for the benefit of the remote public who wishes to be heard on these matters. And for that point, anybody in the room that wishes to come up and speak in favor of this application, this would be your opportunity to do so. And seeing nobody rise, anybody, oh, you wish to come up? We'll get to you.
You're next.
Anybody out there, Mr. Preventure?
Seeing no one rise at this time, Mr. Chair.
Very good, okay. And seeing as how there's no one rising for the favorable portion of this, anybody wishes to speak in opposition to this application, this would be your opportunity to come forward. Gentlemen, I'd ask that you step back and you'll have an opportunity to rebut any of the statements that are made, all righty? And anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to this remotely, please press *9 and we'll get you in right after.
Mr. Chair, I will mention, actually, yes, okay, we do have clarification. There was a hand raised and then it went down and now it's up again for your awareness.
Very good. And you want to introduce yourself?
Sure.
Just speak into the microphone. It's on.
It's on. Jerry Saragusa. Is it on?
Yeah.
Jerry Saragusa, 49 and 45 South Main Street. We currently own the Westbrook Inn, past 4 years, and prior to that, for 38 years, we ran the Circle of Friends School. I apologize in one sense. I got a call from my son, who we worked together on this current project, that the meeting was tonight. I didn't know anything about it, didn't know about the planning board meeting. I was on my way back from Boston, so I just ran here to voice my opposition. I think Bob knows our situation probably back maybe 10 years ago when we started changing the vision of the zone. This was a big thing. I mean, this was not a permitted use. We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars repurposing our property to the inn. That's a little bit more historical, in keeping with what the vision was supposed to be. I know my neighbor, Dr. Butterfield, has invested a lot of time and money working with the town to try to get his vision that will be approved, that will meet what the town was looking for. This is totally going back to what my understanding was. We weren't going to be doing more auto shops or automotives, used cars, things like that. I mean, I hear them talking about Wyndham, I hear them talking about Salem. This is totally different. Any hardship they had there has nothing to do with what's going on here. So honestly, I apologize. I might have my son call in. He has pneumonia, or he would have met me here. So I apologize for that. I mean, again, when we closed the school just before COVID, we had to meet with Bob and Beverly and George and change of use. They've been there for, from what I understand, and again, I apologize if I don't get the facts right, but it sounds like they've been running a business there with a lease for a year and never got approval.
No, since
Few
September.
months.
Oh, since September, still, 4 months. I mean, we had to spend money, we had to work with the town. And again, the vision for this district did not include this use. So I'm trying to look, trying to look at the, again, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. I feel it is contrary. We went through this with the town for 10 years to come up with a vision for the district, and then we spent a lot of time and money to try to come up with a business use that would fit that vision. This, to me, is just, okay, the building is vacant, which I believe Revive was the last use to that building. So this is totally different. It's not like it's the same type of use that was there before. So again, I think it is contrary to, to that. And again, I apologize here. I'm trying to, I asked, typically before I would have come in, I would have printed this out, and I would have had it, but.
Well, let me see if I can help you here. You're referring to 10 years, but, and that may have been kind of the direction 10 years ago, but the approval was only a couple of years ago,
But yeah,
2019 to 21.
And it was a historical district, and it was supposed to be in keeping with the district, and I think that type of use was not permitted in this.
Well, I know that there's been similar uses and maybe more abrasive uses on the property over the last 10 years, operating or current, or working off of that property in different functions.
Like what? Like, I think Revive was the last one.
Well, like I think I mentioned earlier about heavy equipment being parked there, or tractor trailers, 18-wheelers coming in as recently as 2 years ago that I recognized, and working off of the back of the building. So
Did they get approval?
these functions have been going on for some time, is the point.
And did they get
And
approval from the town to do that?
I have no idea, but I'm not looking for an argument here, but I'm looking to reflect on your comments and make sure that you're understanding what has been going on there. I think that, if you had the ability to flex and move your parcel into an area that would, kind of follow what the direction of that zone is, I think that's fine. As you've indicated, you've invested money to readapt that parcel that you have to fit the district. This is a different matter in that you have a building there, and I would say to you, what right would you have to want to revoke someone's use of that parcel, because nothing that they can that's approved can fit in there? I guess that's the question that I'm.
It's not a permitted use in the district. And we had a gas station that we wanted to do something like in Meredith, old style.
Meredith?
Meredith, New Hampshire.
Oh,
So we brought that-
let's stay to what happens in Derry.
No.
Yes.
What I'm saying is we brought a design that we spent money with engineers to the town for that type of use on 45 South Main Street, and we were told it wasn't a permitted use. So we had to shift.
But this building already exists, that's the point. And so essentially, if you start to restrict what historically this building could operate under, it essentially equivalates in a taking of someone's property. If you can readapt your property to meet this, and it works for you in a capital investment sense, and you've worked through the town, that's fine. But just to revoke any use that may operate in this building or fit in a building that perhaps has been there for 50 years, and you say, no, 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 well, that's essentially that restricts that property owner from being able to use the property in its historical sense. And then that's an illegal taking.
So now we're gonna do more of an automotive or a motorcycle in that building.
Yep.
So now, next door, somebody can say, well, it's a hardship because on this property next door, there's an automotive place. So now, technically, they could prove hardship and put another car dealership, automotive, or whatever.
Well, I think go ahead, Mr.
To
Corbett.
the chair's point, though, are they doing this in an existing building? Because we're just going in circles with this, to be honest, I'm sorry for the two of you, but we're just going in circles with this one. If it's a non-conforming property that would continue to be non-conforming, you must see the difference between building a new building, correct?
My biggest
No,
thing.
I asked yes or no.
Run
Can you
that
see
by
the
me
difference
again?
between a non-conforming building that's already existing and a new building being built? Because that's what you're telling us is the difference. But these are two differences. So you can't keep saying a non-conforming building is the same as a building that's not built.
I'm
That's
saying
where
the use.
you're losing.
And again, I'm saying the use, the permitted use. Because that was a big thing that we went through for 10 years and then the last 3 years when the zoning passed. When George was here, with Bev, we went through this in terms of permitted uses in trying to keep any development within the historical concept. So the vision of the zone. We spent a lot of money and a lot of time.
When you say we, you're talking about you and your
My
wife?
family.
Yeah, okay.
My family, and I can't speak for my neighbor, Dr. Butterfield, but I know he has spent a lot of time and a lot of money to keep coming back to the town to do planning, technical reviews. I know that. So what I'm saying is this is kind of going against the vision. I understand, I mean, I think it would be easier to sell, Mr. Corbett, your argument, if it was a auto dealership there now, but it isn't. It's an empty building. Just because it's empty,
I'm not making the argument. I'm trying to understand your argument of a new building.
the vision.
I
The
think what-
vision, we spent a lot of money, a lot of time
But-
to,
But I think what you're getting at is what was discussed earlier, which was precedent. And just because we approve an operation in one segment of a 50 or 60-year-old building doesn't create a precedent for an auto dealership to be opened up there. And it's a subtle use that they're requesting versus something that's welding, fabricating, paint shop, that kind of thing. So all of these things have a specific criteria, and one of the other aspects to it is what is the injustice to the public, and that's yet to be decided by the board. But in reflection, you've got a property that's not right on the street, such as yours is. Yours is a more distinguished parcel. This is a more commercial parcel. This commercial parcel's been there for 60 years, and it's getting harder for some. The hardship is that it's harder for some businesses to fit to new criteria that's been implemented. And so historically, the understanding of the zoning board is it's a relief valve, so to speak, versus a yes or no, cut and dry, black and white.
I don't agree with that. I mean, if we always settle, the town is never gonna be able to move forward. I mean, you spend time, you look for a vision, you create these zones. If you're developing like us, hey, we've spent time and money. Sometimes it takes time. It's easy to take the easy, okay, yeah, let's take the money, we'll rent to this. It doesn't really fit in the zone, but we'll do it. That's why I have my younger son involved. I'm getting a little bit older. I used to like doing this a little bit more. It's nice to have somebody to help. But hey, when you develop it, and that's what the town's looking for, I think you need to be a little bit more patient. And I'm not trying to tell Mr. Taylor how to develop his property, but I know people have been interested in it. Sometimes, maybe the property owner's asking too much. Maybe they're being unrealistic. Maybe that's why things aren't being developed in the vision of the district. So people come in here and say, oh, it's vacant, but well, maybe there's other causes why it's vacant. So I'm just saying, we have tried really hard to hopefully do something that is profitable for us, but will benefit the town. And when I hear this, when I heard this when I'm coming up here, I'm like, don't tell me this. Don't tell me that this is gonna be the easy way out, because, I mean, again, I'm not trying to criticize their business or any other business, but even, you know, the gas station, the top of the hill, I was told from people within the town, well, that was already before the zoning changed. I know it doesn't really fit, but that was before, so now the zoning, moving forward, it's different. Now they can come, anybody can come, and it's, well, it's vacant building, so we're gonna put a automotive shop in. I don't know. Really disappointing. Again, definitely if it's approved, I will seek legal advice from our attorney on how can this be? All the money and all the time and everything we've spent, it might be for nothing, but at least I'll make that call and say, hey, is this? I mean, everything that we've done and all the hoops that we've had to jump through and all the, you know, I mean, I know Bob knows, we try to, you know, do what's right. No, it's a change of use, you gotta go through this. Well, I don't know, I feel like this is a change of use, and I don't feel like they did that.
Oh, that's why they're here now.
After the fact, but we did it before that.
Well,
There's,
you were more sophisticated in that idea, and these gentlemen didn't realize that Mr. Taylor perhaps didn't realize.
well, I think it's not just on Marty, I think it's on them too. Because I think, you know, we have on 45, we have a nonprofit agency that's been there, and they knew to do that. They knew, hey, is this okay? Do we need to talk to the town? And
Yeah,
so,
and we know that some people know that, and I think a vast majority of people don't realize that when they delve into something, it's a larger endeavor, and they aren't the first ones that have had this situation, not just at this parcel, but other people as well.
I'm just asking the board to please deny this, and to please look at the way the zone was written. And again, I know we've spent a ton of money, I know Dr. Butterfield is doing that. I mean, we're trying to jump through the hoops, we're trying to do what is asked, and I feel like, you know, if you want to get the zone in that part of town, historical the way it is, I don't feel this is the right use.
Okay.
And I don't know if my son was, like I say, he would have been here, 965-6228. I don't know if he called in, but,
Yes, okay.
did he call in?
Yep.
Can I, if he's calling in, can I stay here in case I have anything else to say to what he's saying? or
Well,
do
we're
you
gonna
want-
take one person at a time, so if he's gonna call in and has comment, I'd ask you to reserve yours.
You want me to sit or just be
You
quiet?
can sit there, it's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Does that individual want to come in, Mr. Preventure?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have Mark Saragusa. We'll give him the capability to speak at this time.
Okay. Welcome, Mr. Saragusa. Mark? Can you help us out on that vocal, Mr. Preventure?
We're going to confirm that he is indeed trying to speak, and appears that he is indeed unmuted. Okay, we might be experiencing some tech difficulties with that connection,
Okay,
and we're going to work to resolve that immediately.
okay.
We're being told by Mark that he is speaking, however, we're not hearing him.
Do you,
Come in with the technical
Is he,
issues.
is he,
Should I give him the number to call in, the 845?
Yeah, can we share, do we have a way of sharing that? Go ahead, Mr. Corbett, just read that.
Yeah, Mr. Saragus, if you can hear at home, I believe you can try dialing in 603-845-5585, and that should be a direct line to us.
Anything else, Mr. Saragusa?
They have the-
Jerry?
no,
they're
just,
trying to wait?
again, for
Okay.
us.
But we're gonna keep, we need to keep the record clean, so I don't want two people talking over one another. But if you're all set, then I'll leave it at that, and,
I can also have them call on the cell.
yeah, we're not
No,
gonna
we
do that.
can't do that.
Not do that? Okay. Thank you.
Yep. No calls over there, Lucy?
Mr. Chair, we're going to take a quick moment, and we're going to reboot. We believe it's a network connection with the actual Zoom call.
Okay,
So we're going to reboot that Zoom.
okay.
If anybody who is in attendance on Zoom, if they happen to get accidentally removed from the call, they should just recall, call again.
Got it. Thank you. Why, you gotta go potty? How about you, Donald? You have to go to that?
I'm usually the one, yeah.
Recording in progress.
I did. We had sensitivity training.
Did you learn anything, or were you teaching the class?
I believe I was resistant.
Were you taking anything?
No.
Are we ready to roll then?
If we could have Mr. Saragusa try again.
Mr. Saragusa, Mark, can you,
Okay, he's on the phone.
I thought I heard something for a minute there.
Hey, Owen, can you hear me all right now?
There we go.
okay?
Getting better.
Yes, we can hear you.
Is that all right? Everyone can, awesome, great. Sorry about that. Not sure what was going on. Yeah, again, Mark Saragusa, 49 South Main Street. Apologize for the delay and not being there. I got pneumonia this week, so wish I could be there with my dad. Not going to belabor, most of the points my dad had mentioned already. I think he said them well. Just a few things I think to expand on. The biggest thing, pretty disappointed in it actually. I think share my dad's sentiments in it is that the planning board actually recommended approval for not only a permitted use that's not permitted in the zone, but especially the auto use or motorcycle use. I do understand that there are, just down the street, there's other uses on the street, but that was one of the main uses that was pointed out and singled out as not wanting to be in this district because it prevents more high-dense development and the type of development that the zone is built around. It doesn't really blend in, or it's not conducive for people to be walking around and more of that village feel. I do understand that this property, the grade is kind of difficult in that it does drop off going back, but it is a large parcel. It's 20 plus acres. and it's at the main intersection of the district. It doesn't make, I don't agree, frankly, that just because of the lay of the land or because of the building that's on site, we should just allow another use, especially a non-permitted use, to be allowed in the zone. You know, look at the gentleman, I don't know, I apologize, I don't know the name, the applicant's friend there who's on the Salem zoning board. I do understand that variances are state, maybe even a federal law, the five, you know, the 5 conditions, but frankly, Salem's a very different town, and I don't believe Rockingham Park, they just allowed any use to come in there. It sat vacant for many years, before they had a specific vision or master plan come in that fit with the vision of the town. So if you're making the comparison, this is very similar in that nature. And the town of Salem was very diligent and strict with their regulations that they set forth for future growth. To allow a use, a non-permitted use, that was seen as prohibited or inhibiting future growth towards the vision that was laid out for this district. So to do that before a lot of the many projects, there's already been 3 or 4 big projects approved now by site plan, get rolling, it'd really just be a huge discouragement to the vision of the district. Again, just echoing what my dad said, you know, the town has to, I believe they have to be patient and seeing things come together here. It's not something that happens overnight. Big plans and developments, especially a 20, 30 acre parcel that you're dealing with over there. There's not, you know, a large number of developers that are able to just come in and take it down and redevelop it. So it does take time, and putting in a use like this, I understand the applicant said he's planning to retire after 4 years. 4 years is a long time, and when it comes to development, time is money. You know, the more time it takes, the more costly it is for developers. And if there's uncertainty that the developer is going to be able to come in with a vacant property to redevelop, they're not going to even look at the property because it's just another hurdle to get their plans approved. In regards to the actual building itself, again, just want to echo what my dad said. I do understand that there is like some heavy, I don't even know if I would call it like heavy metal but there are tractor trailers, things going in there already. I don't know if they were approved before or after the district was changed in 2019. If they weren't approved, then I guess shame on us for not knowing about it. But even though the building has been there for 50, 60 years, I think it was mentioned, again, does not allow for exception to, you know, allow for non-permitted use. Our property and our family knows that probably better than anyone in town. Our house on site is 300 years old. We could have raised the building and every building on the 9 acres that my family owns here and just redeveloped everything, sold it off to a developer or just permitted it to go. But we wanted to stick to the vision of the district. So we preserved the 1720s house, the oldest house in town, built by one of the 20 families who settled Nutfield in 1719. And we did that with the expectation that the planning board and the zoning board and the town council would adhere to the vision and stick to that vision over the long term to hopefully redevelop this area in line with that. And not only the vision of the district, but the master plan for the overall town. My dad being very, very conservative in his estimates, maybe, I don't know, we spent more than hundreds of thousands, millions at this point, redeveloping the project. So it'd be, again, a shame to see something like this come in when we've invested, you know, significant amount of money and time in the direction of the vision of the district, to then allow something like this to come in and, again, stunt the growth of the area. With complete respect for the business owner, probably coming off real strong and not wanting it in there. But again, respect for the business owner. Grew up in a family where my parents have owned and operated a business for over 40 years now. We've heard good things about his business, but unfortunately, this isn't necessarily the best spot for it. And I think that was also echoed by at least one of the planning board members I'm familiar with who lives in the immediate area of this district as well. I don't know if I'd open it up for response from the applicant or back to the board. I know typically the board has response to public opinion, so.
Okay, well, I have no questions for you, Mr. Saragusa. Anybody else? No? Okay, anything else, Mr. Saragusa?
That's it. Thanks for the
Very
time.
good, thank you.
Take care.
All right, anybody else who wishes to speak in opposition to this? Anybody else remote, Mr.
Oh,
Venture?
somebody over there.
Seeing no one rise at this time, Mr. Chair.
Jody Savage Finauer.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
Jody Savage Finauer. I live at 71 Island Pond Road.
Are you a direct abutter? Oh, how would you be aggrieved to this?
I thought I was able to just speak against it.
Well, typically, it's direct abutters or anybody who can define how they would be aggrieved. I'll give you some latitude, but I'm just interested how you would be aggrieved by this decision if you're not a direct abutter.
Okay. Can I speak?
Sure.
Okay. I just want to point out that a quick search of their Facebook page shows that they have had at least 2 rides that originated there in the past, one in 2018 and one this year. And the name of the ride is called Wake the Lake, which to me sounds like it's loud. So I'm just curious if the Facebook page is wrong, if these rides did or didn't happen, because he just said they didn't.
What year was that?
One was in 2018 and one was in May of this year.
Okay.
Bingo.
That's it.
Wake the Lake?
Yep,
Okay. Anything else?
that's it.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? See no one rise. Mr. Preventer, anybody else out there?
Seeing no one rise, Mr. Chair.
Very good, thank you. All right, gentlemen, come on back up. Wake the Lake, for starters, if you want to rebut.
Yes, that was organized by a different group. This year was canceled due to the weather, and
Was
it
that
did
in
not
May?
happen. Pardon me?
Was that in May?
Yeah, yes, I believe it was.
Okay. Oh, you were going to say?
It was canceled this year due to the weather.
Okay. So what about 2018?
The one that they had in 2018, it probably had about 12 to 18 riders.
And who is they?
They call themselves the Freedom Riders. They're a riding club.
Mr. Corbett?
Do you guys have, give permission to use the parking lot? What exactly is Rockingham Cycle's affiliation with the meetup point other than it being at the location?
There's no affiliation. I'm not a member of the riding club. Some of them are my customers.
So is permission granted for that to be a starting point?
They asked me if they could meet there in the morning and have coffee and leave from there. So yes, they did.
And this was a single instance in 30 years?
Correct. Well, there would have been 2, but this year was canceled due to the weather. And it's not a large ride, and, no more than, like I say, 12, 20 people.
Now, obviously, listening to abutters' concerns, the planning board concerns, and the earlier testimony, I don't want to say it would be a safe assumption, but can I consider an assumption that we would not have approvals for meetups moving forward if this were to be approved?
I could agree to that.
Well, since he really doesn't own the property, he'd have to have a, I guess the property owner would have to give permission for them to rendezvous there, to meet up. And, say again?
Mr. LaRosa has agreed, if you want to put a condition on it, that it cannot, the parking lot of the property cannot be used for group rides, stop.
Is that, Mr. Preventure? Is that my phone? Doesn't seem like, I can't hear him hardly.
Is your mic on?
Like it went dead.
No, okay. Sorry about that.
Say,
That's right.
Mr. LaRosa is amenable to a condition that we can't have group rides either originating or ending at the property.
and Mr. LaRosa is the owner of the property?
No, he's the owner of
Oh.
Rockingham Cycle.
Yeah, but, say again?
But will not host,
Oh,
where he's not the property owner. But
I think one of the things that, to that, these rides, you look at the tire tracks in the parking lot, and those aren't sanctioned either. And I've seen vehicles left there overnight in that corner. I've seen trailers left there overnight in that corner. No one would know about it because it's so segregated off the main road, and there's wooded edge around it with a large commercial parking lot. So it doesn't stand out until someone shines a light on it, right? But that becomes part of the issue here is, we can certainly state that, but it becomes hard to regulate, and it doesn't mean that it's sponsored by Rockingham Cycle either, right?
Yeah, to the same point, I think you could also start to make an argument too that, at what point do too many restrictions then start to harm the village feel that the vision has for that, where you're now using a bias and kind of alienating certain people from visiting your area. I think it's a very slippery slope when you start to talk about, what is a village.
can you speak into the microphone?
Sorry, what is a village to some and what may not be. If the vision is to create something where it's a village or it's welcoming for all types of people of different types to be shopping and walking and doing whatever, except unless you're on a motorcycle, to me that starts to tend close to Irish need not apply. Where do you really draw that line?
The question I have is, as the property stands now, it doesn't meet any of the uses. So does that mean that we're going to prohibit the use of the property until it's developed?
Well, and this is my question to the prior abutter, which is that, if you can't ever fill it, it essentially becomes a taking of the property. If you can't ever, find any criteria that fits in it. And it bothers me to hear some nonchalant comments from abutters that suggest that, well, they just need to tough it out until the property conforms to what we want. That's
But
pretty
isn't that-
troublesome to me.
Isn't that what the district is, they have made particular provisions for certain places and other things are not allowed?
Say again?
Mechanical places is one of those that is not in the provision, so it's not allowed.
But there is a provision when it's a natural expansion of a non-conforming use.
But why is there a natural
What's
expansion?
unnatural about it?
What's natural about it? See, that's the whole thing. Everything else that's talked about in this provision is other than mechanical shops of any kind. I'm not talking about motorcycles in particular, but a mechanic shop, an automotive shop, or any other type things. Now, I know there are some in the district, but they've been in there since more than 25 years ago, because they were there when I came into town.
Who was that?
Oh, the guy across the
Across the street.
across the
Automo-
street, Cal's Corner and all
Oh, yeah,
those
yeah,
places
yeah.
over there. The car dealership that's been there for
Right.
eons, used to be $1 bills at once upon a time.
but also,
So, I'm just saying, this was made up special to try to get more retail or hotel spaces and other professional buildings in there. Although motorcycles, you need to have them fixed, but this is not the area for it. But in my opinion, it just doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Well, I have a question. If you look at 18 on the permitted uses, it says retail uses, professional offices, and personal or professional services in 1 and 1.5 story buildings. What would you consider a personal service?
The definition that we had, Mr. Tripp.
What?
So that's a good question. Sorry, and I'm going to interrupt that one because
That's
that was
okay.
where I was going earlier. One of the questions is it would require a license.
Oh.
Which was to my earlier question, do the workers require a license? We got that they require the state certification.
No.
So again, I think that to Mr. Burgess' point, while there are some very objective points in there, I think now where we're met and where we're met for a lot of our cases is the subjectivity. I think that's where we're at right now.
Mr. Tripp, anything else?
Not presently.
You pausing?
I'm researching.
Okay.
So
Gentlemen,
that
you-
is pausing.
You gentlemen have anything else you wish to add?
No, sir.
Okay.
You want to go into deliberative for a chance?
Well, I'm waiting to see what Mr. Tripp does.
I don't see a definition of personal services.
Oh, sorry, I was going professional.
Professional
Oh.
services.
Now, I understand professional, but, the issue here is, if personal services are permitted, then we should probably have some understanding as to what the personal services would be. Is it,
Personal or professional?
well, if you look at, this is on page 88 of the zoning ordinance book, and it says, retail uses, professional offices, and personal or professional services, and they go on to say, in 1 or 1.5 story buildings of 1,500 square feet or less. So I don't know whether they meant to put that in there when they wrote the ordinance, but it's,
Hotel Inn.
what?
What page?
Page 80, page 83, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yep, manufacturers, medical.
My eyes
devices,
aren't that good
movies,
anymore.
What is the addition that you're looking at? What year?
Professional, this is,
Personal or professional services.
August 10th, 2023.
Okay, thank you.
I got one from October, October of this year.
Retail uses, professional,
Oh, there's a
personal or professional services.
later version.
no, I have the same.
We have a definition for professional.
Mine is the same.
So, it is something of a stretch to say that a motorcycle shop would be a personal service, but it's not that big a stretch, because, it once again becomes, what is a personal service? So, since it's not defined in the ordinance, as a use, then, it's an issue, I believe, because it's like, when we had the previous hearing for the company that's in the other half of the building, it's obvious, that's obviously commercial, so that would fit into the district. I said, this is if we were to say that this is a personal service, that'd be kind of like, that'd be shoehorning in this new use.
It's a commercial service that supplies the personal needs of a customer.
I can't hear you.
a commercial service that supplies the personal needs of a customer, per the Oxford Dictionary.
If you Google personal service examples,
Well, I think we're hinging on
We're getting,
someone finding a definition to justify an action, whereas versus analyzing the 5 criteria, the substantial justice, the hardship, and whatnot,
Excuse me, please.
which I think that we should corral back to just looking at that 5 criteria and understanding whether, and correlating to the planning board's ideals as well, and stick to those. I think that finding acceptance for either professional or personal services helps soften a decision, but I think that it's more pertinent to focus on the statuted criteria that's developed. I'd like to move forward to go into deliberative, unless there's still some questions to be hashed out. Mr. Burgess, you're all set?
I'm good for now.
Mr. Corbett, how about you? You're good. Mrs. Moran?
oh, good,
I
thank
make-
you.
Mr. Tripp?
I'm ready.
I'll make the motion to go into deliberative session.
And I'm going to pause right there before
All
a
right.
second. Gentlemen, you have anything you want to add? You've heard some banter back and forth. This would be your last opportunity to give us some feedback.
I think we meet the 5 criteria, and I would respectfully request that you grant the variance.
Okay, very good. So Mr. Burgess made the motion. Could I have a second, Mrs. Moran?
I'll second that.
Mrs. Moran seconds. All in favor of going into deliberation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. All right, we'll take up this matter immediately. Anybody wish to lead off?
Well, I'm going to go back to the same thing I said a few minutes ago, is it doesn't fit into the criteria for the district. It just doesn't make sense. You know, if they were going to, if they wanted more car dealerships or automotive repair or any other repair type shop like that, motorcycles included, then they would have been included in the district's primary right across the street. I mean, you know, putting it out. So if they didn't include it then, I don't know why we would include it now. It's far afield off of what I think this district is looking for. They're trying for more professional buildings, restaurants and such.
You know, not that it's I don't want to insinuate there's a precedent, but, you know, the board has given approval to the prior 2 occupants a month ago to operate in a retail, commercial retail aspect on realistically what was a commercial property.
But the thing is that what they're doing is selling cabinets, and that's retail. That's,
Well, it is,
you know.
but by their own admission, the other side of it is commercial because they're using it as a warehouse and as a storage area to get materials out of, right?
warehouses are allowed in this district.
Well, that's fine, but both of those had to come before us
Of course.
for approval, which meant that it's not a defined use, which are, they're
Not
non-conforming
absolutely
uses.
defined, no, you're right.
And I understand if you're trying to, you know, micro mince this and say, well, is it a professional, does it meet professional definition or personal service definition? You know, to help make it easier for you to make it, to support your decision based on 5 criteria. I get that, but, you know, at the same time, you're still, these were non-conforming uses that were before us. If they weren't if they were conforming, they wouldn't have been
Well,
before
That's the whole
us.
thing, the retail aspect of the cabinet and the people who are selling the cabinets, I thought that was retail from the start. You know, there's nothing saying it's a retail store. It's just like selling bananas or bagels or whatever the heck, it's still a retail store. And they were selling cabinets, so that's retail, period.
So
Now,
there,
the secondary piece was the way they had made the construction company, which was an ancillary use because they were just installers, not really construction company.
but you can look at that as well. They're a retail store. They're selling parts and accessories, and he's just the installer.
No, that's mechanical. That's a whole different object, I think. It's my opinion,
They
okay?
both-
And part of the other thing is I live on High Street, and was a motorcycle club right at the end of the street. So yeah, when people drive by on motorcycles, and just from the stop sign to my house, where you probably know how far that is, better than I do, but it's around quarter of a mile.
And I'm aware of the house, too.
Okay, so the thing is, and yeah, I'm right on the road, but the thing is, you can hear that motorcycle coming up from the corner over by Folsom and North High Street.
But we
Okay.
can't blame the person that
I'm
puts
not-
a sticker
I'm not-
on a
I'm not-
motorcycle that
Yeah, I know, I
passes.
But the
What
lady
they
was
do
saying,
when they leave is
the
on
lady,
them.
the lady was saying that her horses would be hurt, injured possibly by additional noise. It's just, and I know motorcycles are gonna go up and down that street, but additional motorcycles would be even more. So, there's a myriad of things, but mostly the fact is, I just don't think it fits in the area.
So how do we reconcile with the fact that you've got the Auto Mart across the street, you got Cal's Corner on the corner there, doing these operations that are essentially doing the same thing that you're saying here doesn't fit?
They were in there before this district was written up.
I understand that, but
Okay.
this
Well, this-
facility here was put in 60, 50 years ago.
But it wasn't a garage back then.
No, but to this point, Mr. Burgess, what could we use this property for at this point that would fit the spirit of the ordinance right now, that would not require a variance?
I think you would have, I don't know. I just
Right now,
don't
what we
think.
have is a non-conforming structure that's in need of another variance, which we've heard a
Well,
million,
the other-
which we've
yeah.
heard a million times.
The other problem I have is with the person who owns the building not telling these people to come forward and ask the zoning board and the planning board to do this. That's another problem we've had. It's 2 cases in a row that this operator has decided that they don't need to come before us because they own the property. I think that was one of the problems they had with the original owner, who decided he could do whatever he wanted to, but it's a whole different piece now. But the fact that I'm trying to get at is, anybody who's going to basically skirt the law, if I'm in here, I'm gonna stay.
Well, I
That's
think.
what I think.
I think what you're dealing with there is that historically, for easily 20 years, it's been free reign. And as long as it doesn't offend anybody and it's isolated from view, there's nothing there to cause an action, so to speak. So these things have been going on for some time. And, perhaps it's my own proximity to the location that I'm familiar with, or why I'm familiar with it. But even in your own example of you're dealing with the motorcycle club down the street, I'm aware of the parcel that you're talking about, not because I hang out there, but because I've been in and around the community enough, and I'm familiar enough with it to know what's going on. And I think the objection from some of the planning board members is that they're not as astute as I'm indicating I am about this parcel. Otherwise, they would have known that there was a lot of these kind of operations have been going on for 20 years or better, free reign, and I don't know whether or not the property owner here was trying to be deceptive or not, but I know that there's just been no historical restrictions there that he's ever been called out on. And so I'm just trying to find a balance to that. I'm not trying to penalize him because he just said, yeah, I'll rent you the space, go ahead in, because I have seen 18-wheelers as recently as a winter ago, pulling all the way down around the back, unloading to a loading dock that's a commercial-sized loading dock, seeing another, I think it would be a contracting firm that provided steel lockers regionally, and I say regionally along the Northeast, not just New Hampshire, operating there since the early 2000s. I don't know that he's still there now, but I'm familiar with him. So these kind of things have been going on in that parcel for some time without apparently anybody being aware of it.
Doesn't mean we have to continue to allow things to go on that aren't.
Could you
supposed to
speak
be
into the
going on.
microphone, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. This time it's my fault. I've done this a million times to other people. Yeah, it's doesn't mean we have to go along with it forever. Maybe, it's
No, it
time to
doesn't,
let
but
people know.
if you're indicating you want to penalize him because he
No,
didn't get
I don't
permission.
I'm not trying to, it's not the point. The point I'm trying to get at is, people do these things sometimes, and until they get caught.
All right.
I have a question.
Mr. Tripp?
Since you bring up that, the point that the tractor trailers are driving down and going to the rear of the building and unloading something into the building. Bob, is there any other businesses in this building that are operating out of it?
Well, the tractor trailers would still be coming for the cabinets if
I
they
was
were to
asking
drop them
Bob.
off.
No, I don't think they're associated. And my other point,
No,
by the
I'm
wa-
just
my
pointing
other
it.
point, by the way, is that this whole property is obstructed from view. Without complaints, you might not know that anything is going on there, but I'll digress to Mr. Mackey.
At this point, I don't believe so, but certainly in the past, and again, being such a remote property, there have been businesses coming and going. I think it was last year, somebody started storing big dumpsters filled with trash, and we had to chase them down and get those off the property. So
That I
obviously,
didn't know about.
I think, as been shown, that the property's had quite a varied history, and there's businesses that have come and gone, especially out the back where it's so isolated, but unless, so.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's a mess.
Tis.
Well, Mr. Tripp, care to give us any more thought on this matter and deliberation?
Well, I'm torn between, acknowledging that this is a short-term issue, and that Mr. Rosa wants to retire here shortly, and he just wants someplace to finish his career out, and knowing that this doesn't fit into the vision of West Running Book. I know the vision is fairly poorly defined, but I don't think that a motorcycle shop is included in it. So the situation becomes, would we rather have the property sit idle? Of course, right now, with the other company in the building, it's not going to be sitting totally idle. As like I said, I'm just conflicted as to what my decision will be.
One of the other things is, remember that a variance stays with the property. So could be a motorcycle shop now and forever.
Well, it doesn't
Even if this
necessarily
guy-
stay
if
with
this
the
gentleman-
property.
Huh? A variance stays with the property.
Except when we put
Huh?
unless a condition is put in that it stays with the current owner.
Okay, well, we can do that, but
No. So it's, we can, we can make the law over, how long the variance lasts,
Very good. Mr. Corbett?
The district's a tough one, obviously. Understanding the vision and where it's put in, I get it. To me, with this, the location does matter. This building being at the very edge of it, and to your point, being offset definitely more so Island Pond Road than on 28. This is something where I feel a variance fits more, than if the property was down by the inn, down by the old Derry Village School, right in the heart of it. I feel like that's really the vision. You know, that's where we're trying to get to. I think right on the corner here, in a non-conforming building across the street from another, and not that I want to get into everything's non-conforming, so this can't be two, but a non-conforming building across from a non-conforming building. I would feel better with the sunset clause in, that it stays, with the current owner upon his retirement, that it ends, you know, rather than Rockingham Cycle continued being sold and staying there. I would hate to take a current company that's in Derry and unfortunately now, you know, make them homeless or kick them out of Derry. We only have so many businesses that are coming in to begin with, never mind now to start kicking some out. I don't think that's the right move. So I can see it. You know, I do feel that, you know, you can argue that it is a natural expansion to a non-conforming use. You know, I do think it blends a bit to the professional definition. Now, I admit it's not perfect on either. If it was perfect on either, it wouldn't be with us. If it was further down in the middle of, you know, the district, I don't know. But right here, I do feel that today I would support a variance for this. However, I would want it to sunset.
Okay. Well, and I think I've been arguing this point, which is that, you know, I've been making the point that other things have been operating there for some time, and that understanding the vision that the planning board had for the area, I can see transitional areas such as the Saragousas parcel that's very attractive, and they found an alternative use to what they were using before to make it fit the neighborhood and the strip. And my understanding is, and I'm not blind to what Mr. Butterfield's intentions are either, and being on the school board, we had documents shared with us as to how he would adapt that development to West Running Brook and find that joint use. So you see that blend. But you're not going to see that blend with this parcel. It's not going to blend with the rest. It's got a good drop-off heading down to West Running Brook. It's commercially styled. The parcel or home or residence that is on South Main now as an alternative exit out of this parcel is not in the best condition and doesn't fit the strip. And so you're going to tell those people they got to move out of their home because it doesn't fit the criteria? You're not. And you're not going to do that with this parcel either. And, you know, this parcel here, and I can remember the day that one of the government agencies raided the flea market because I was outside on the road and
Shopping for handbags?
I was not shopping for handbags, and some of the authorities went in to break up the flea market. The next thing I know, I have all these people jumping over the fences, running over, pounding on the window of my truck, wanting to ride. So those flea market days are gone by as well. But, you know, it just goes to show that it's not just the use, but the building has been a hodgepodge put together, find a usage from the days of old Yankees trying to find something to do, and this property hasn't broken out of that, despite the fact that the zoning criteria has changed. And you can't tell this guy, well, this 21 acres of commercial property and a big building, you got to tear it down because it doesn't suit what some of us in the community would like to see. Because even though I want to see the community cleaned up and I want to see it operating in an efficient way, I'm not willing to take somebody else's property away to do it. So that's where I set on this, and I concur with Mr. Corbett's thoughts on this, that I don't want to just give a blanket usage that's going to go from here till eternity. But I find a need to operate with a property owner, preserve their property, not have it blighted, and have it useful and have a revenue for it. And it's a big piece. So that's where I set on that. That's my feelings on this. Does anybody have any rebuttal?
No, but I can add a little side note, though, to it. I know firsthand that it's most desperately needed. It's not a service that we provide, but we field phone calls all the time asking if we're to have motorcycle tires done. So it's needed as well.
Got it, okay. Well, let's structure this motion and get through this thing. Subject to obtain all town and state permits and inspections. I'd like to look at the conditions that these gentlemen had, which is that I don't want fabrication, welding, painting, and what was the fourth one that he had?
No motorcycle runs?
Well, no, there were four, fabrication, welding,
Okay.
machine work,
Yeah, welding, fabrication, painting, or machine work.
That's the painting I was thinking of.
and painting. Yeah, no fabrication, welding, machine, or painting.
I just have a question because I'm probably overthinking it.
Uh-huh.
Will those exclusions also be for the business next door? Is there, I just want to clarify.
That doesn't have anything to do with
Okay.
this.
I
And
just-
no, well, you can't go back on somebody else.
No.
They
I
went to
understand where
paint a cabinet. I didn't want someone to say, no, this says no painting on.
Crystal, rather than it being tagged to Rockingham Cycle, Crystal's looking at it as tagged to Island Pond Road as a whole.
I
Would
see.
that now impact the other businesses who are there, whereas you're writing this specifically for, unless I'm wrong, but you're writing this specifically for Rockingham Cycle?
Got it.
All right, thank you.
No sponsorship of motorcycle rides or club activity. Anybody have a problem with that?
Nope.
Okay. Very good. 3 conditions. You
We're
have
gonna-
all those,
Well,
Mrs.
we're
Moore?
going to change the, so it's not a lifetime position to voting
You want to sunset it?
I would like to sunset.
sunset?
To expire
With the ownership of,
Freedom Cycle.
Rockingham Count,
No, the operation of the, not
the
ownership.
retirement,
no, yeah, well, if it's
the retirement of the current owner.
yeah, because if he basically what I don't want is the company to be sold. You know, no offense, Richard
Can you
Tripp
speak
comes
into the microphone, please?
Yeah, what I'm just trying to prevent is the company gets sold to Richard Tripp. Richard Tripp now comes in, owns Rockingham Cycle. I just want it to end
So
prior to
you
sale.
want termination of the business?
Yep.
All right.
Variance to cease when Rockingham Cycle ownership, help me out here, will you?
The retirement of the owner?
Variance to cease,
With ownership of,
thank you.
with so-and-so's ownership of Rockingham Cycle.
Hmm.
With Gata Corporation.
No, that's,
Sorry, Taylor? I have too many names I'm looking at.
I think it's La Rosa is his last name. Joseph, maybe? Yep, Joseph A. La Rosa.
Sorry, so with the retirement of La Rosa.
You all said there, Ms. Moore?
I just want to clarify. make
Yep,
sure
please
I'm-
do. That number 4.
To cease with the retirement of Joseph A. La Rosa, owner, or current owner of Rockingham Cycle.
It could just be cease with ownership
Okay,
of everything you had.
with the retirement of
Rather
Joseph.
than the retirement, just cease with ownership of. So when he's no longer the owner, it's out.
Perfect.
All set?
Yes.
Very good. All right, with that said, any other conditions? Gestures, very good. So let's take a motion, come out of deliberation, please.
So moved.
I'll make the second.
All in favor of vacating deliberation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Mrs. Moore, you have a motion to read?
I do, thank you. I make a motion on case number 24-138 for Rockingham Cycle, owner Gata Corporation, to grant a variance to the terms of Article 6, Section 165-32.4B of the Town of Derry zoning ordinance to allow the operation of a motorcycle service and repair business at the property. Parcel ID 05053-001, zoned WRB, as presented with the following conditions. We have 4. 1, subject to obtaining all state and town permits and inspections. 2, to not allow fabrication, welding, painting, or machine shop work. 3, no sponsorship of motorcycle rides or sponsorship of club activity. 4, to cease ownership, the variance to cease with ownership of Joseph A. LaRosa, and that concludes the reading of the motion.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
If, I'm looking at the letter of authorization, and it says, I, Martin Taylor, President of Gata Corporation. All right? It appears the motion says Gata Corporation in it.
That should probably have his name.
Say again?
It should probably say,
The landlord.
well, it does state the landlord.
Does Gata Corporation own the building or Rockingham Cycle?
They own the building.
The building. Actually, the whole property.
Am I making a commotion where there's no commotion?
No,
The motion.
Should it be Rockingham Cycle owner, Mr. sorry, I'm pulling full in, owner Mr. LaRussa at parcel XYZ owner Gata Corporation?
well, Mr. Mackey, the designation of owner designates who owns this in this case, correct?
Correct.
But
Yeah,
but it doesn't designate that they're the owner of Rockingham Cycle.
That's correct.
And
I
that-
believe the motions we put together, when there's a separate owner, always read what you're reading.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Tripp, thank you for bringing that to our attention, but I think Mr. Mackey has answered that sufficiently for us, so that he defines that.
Can't we just say property owner Gata Corporation?
Well, okay, if you want to amend that and you feel better, is that what you'd like?
Well, it does seem to say that Gata Corporation
Yep,
owns Rockingham Cycle.
I understand.
But then we did specifically tie it to,
Say again?
but then we did specifically
Why
tie
don't we
it
just call
with
it him a tenant?
with condition 4. We tied
Yep.
it to the specific.
All right.
Okay, we did tell you, Mr. Corbett's correct. So that, number 4, would you read the variance to cease when ownership of, what's his first name?
Joseph?
Joseph LaRosa terminates. Is that all right?
Yes.
All right. That was amended. All in favor of that amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
So what is 4 now?
Variance to cease when ownership
Of Rockingham Cycle.
of Joseph LaRusso terminates.
Do we want to say Rockingham Cycle? Ownership of Rockingham?
No, I'd just say his, because then we're starting to get into too many loopholes. What happens if the name changes? You know.
Oh, okay.
Okay? All right, thank you. Those amendments are made. Who made the motion on that? Mrs. Moran made the motion.
I second it.
Mr. Burgess seconded. Let's go to finding of fact. Mr. Corbett?
Finding a fact for case 24-138. The board found that the applicant is requesting approval to operate a motorcycle service and repair business at the property. The property is located in the West Running Brook District, which does not list this type of business as a permitted use. Recently, variances were issued to builders reserved and stiletto construction to operate at the property. Due to being in the West Running Brook District, the variance request was first reviewed by the planning board and comments were provided for review to the ZBA. The board also includes all facts found in the meeting minutes for this application and incorporates all meeting minutes into its finding of facts and decisions. Does anybody have any additions or addendums to make?
Seeing no gestures there, all in favor of moving this forward for a vote, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Mrs. Moran,
Chair, I vote yes.
Mr. Tripp,
I vote yes.
Mr. Burgess.
I'm going to vote no. I don't think the variance, I think the variance is contrary to the public interest, and I don't think it's in the spirit of the ordinance. And I see no hardship.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Corbett?
I vote yes.
The chair will make it a yes as well, so your application passes by a vote of 4 to 1. Anybody aggrieved by this decision has 30 days, of course, you know, for, pass this board for a rehearing. After that, recourse is to Superior Court. Okay? Very good. Congratulations. Yeah, we'll put them in the file. If you want to hand them to Mr. Mackey, would be fine. Thank you.
Well.
All right, next case up is case number 24-140. It would be Dennis Lincoln, 10 Craven Terrace.
Ooh. Yes.
Notice that our state inspection license, we don't transfer, so that's gonna sunset when he leaves anyway.
Folks, how are you? All set? Okay. You may recall our protocol, have you read the application, 5 criteria, and then we'll go from there, okay?
The variance will not be contrary to the public interest because ADUs in general terms are allowed to use, or an allowed use within the zoning district. The spirit of the ordinance is observed because the existing 2.75 acre oversized lot located within the MDR zoning district is large enough to support this detached garage, allowed use, and finished ADU above. So substantial justice is done because the family residing at the property will have ample room to expand their housing needs. Number 4, the values of surrounding properties are not diminished because new construction typically increases property values to neighboring properties. Number 5, literal literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship. The answer to that is via our request to detach this ADU per our plot plan. This area of the proposed ADU lends itself as the best location for the proposed addition, as the existing placement of garage under home, its septic system, pool, and driveway do not provide ample alternatives. Secondarily, the allowed garage location would be able to be finished on the second floor to allow for the oversized ADU. Number 2, the proposed use is a reasonable one, like addendum 2. If what part is that? Okay, as mentioned, the family residing at the subject property will have ample room to expend their housing needs via an ADU, finished above a new garage to be constructed in an area well suited to the existing lot layout and improvements. And as stated, the proposed attached garage, which is an allowed use, will be configured at the bus location on the existing lot, both from an aesthetic and also a practical standpoint, and a detached ADU may be placed above said proposed garage with the support of a variance.
Okay. So how come you're back with us?
During our last session, The board had indicated that if we required some additional square footage after we go back and work with our architect, that you may be amenable to granting us some more living space.
So I understand the formal arguments like the acreage and whatnot, but why do you need the additional space? Which conflicts with the requirements of the ADU ordinance.
Sure. The kind of fundamental idea behind the space is that we wanted the garage and a workshop such that the size that it was, which then leaves a large open space above it that we're trying to finish off for living space. We've added dormers and shrunk walls in as much as possible to try to contain that as close to 900 square feet as possible. And we're left with is about 1,086 square feet, which is what we're requesting to finish.
An additional 86 square feet?
It's 186 square feet.
186. So do you understand the intention of the ADU?
Yeah, this is not
I believe so, yes.
I mean, it was essentially, you know, and not to get into politics, right, but one political faction wanted it to help the needy, the other political faction wanted it to help create economic development so that we could have more workers into the state. And essentially what you start to ask for, number one, by having the detached, is now you're putting two residences on the same property. And so you get shaded on the ADU aspect, and sometimes the board can waiver on that. And then when you start increasing that square footage, now you're making two houses on the same parcel, not just two residences. And so as you keep growing this, you're essentially giving the equivalent of a small starter home or ranch.
Sure.
That's what you're looking for.
If you had a chance to look at the floor plan, it is a one-bedroom, essentially apartment. And there is really no way to expand this beyond one bedroom. It's a very, very large master bathroom, some closet space, and some unusable storage space.
See, the problem I see with this is I don't know too many ADUs that are gonna have a sauna and two bathrooms. It just, you know, this is way beyond an ADU. You're building another house. That's it. It's a single-family house. A single, you know, it's just great room, dining room, kitchen. You know, a living room, a dining room, and a kitchen, a bathroom, and a shower, or a bathroom with a shower and a one-bedroom would be great. But this is way beyond, you know, what my definition, or what I believe an ADU is supposed to be constructed for. It's supposed to be, have single individuals or couples who are young, who are only going to live there until, you know, if they decide to have children, they're going to be moving out to go someplace bigger. It's not supposed to be a residence where you can grow a family. And this, basically, I could see where you could reconstruct this in a bunch of ways and have another couple of bedrooms without even thinking hard.
Well,
You
not
know?
even just a couple of bedrooms. I can concur with you, Mr.
Yeah.
Burgess, because when I start to see what is more exorbitant style, and that's why you can't have the space you need, it starts to replicate what I was just narrating, which is the intention of just having either the place for grandma to live, or a single individual who needs a starter place to start their life out and start in their career. You know, those were the intentions of ADUs, you know, in the state when they were established. They weren't to be developed to grow and grow and grow, and next thing you know, you've got a 2,000 square foot detached ADU. And those are kind of what this is representing to myself.
I think that you can see if you look at the plans, that's not actually a possibility.
Well, we were granted the variance for the detached ADU. We were allowed to exceed the 800 square foot element of that. You, Mr. Perkins, said to me personally, when you get through the process with the architect, if you need a little bit more space, come back to us, we'll work with you. So what did the board mean in that comment to me?
Well, again, it's going back to what Mr. Burgess just reflected on. You know, your request was something that we just don't, you know, I typically don't like to just slam the door shut and not listen to someone, but when I'm seeing that there's a sauna, a shower, separate, and 2 baths and an ADU, I'm going, well, how come that you don't have enough space? It's, you know, why do you need 2 separate bathrooms for 1 bedroom? Essentially
sauna.
studio.
There's no grand intentions here to not observe the spirit of the ordinance. I want a 32 by 32 garage and a workshop for my hobbies.
Yeah.
And so I'm left with a 32 by 48 building.
Right.
And so I'm trying to work with a 32 by 48 building the best way that I know how.
Okay. Let's see what any other thoughts are. Mr. Corbett?
No, I can understand this. This was kind of, thinking back on it to March, and I don't want to completely speak for him, but this was, I believe, where Mr. Donlin was kind of taking us during the time, that even trying to keep them to the 800 square feet, you know, obviously the 1,500 that came to us was, you know, exorbitant, but the 800 amount we could try, but they're building this size of a building. The 48 by 32 was happening because of this garage. You know, it's how do we prevent really, you know, that extra space up there being utilized? I do have a tough time with that, but, you know, with that as my precursor, the fact that they are coming back before us to ask for the 100 square feet, I get it. You keep asking for 100. After a while, it keeps adding up. But to me, it's showing positive intention that rather than just building a couple of this space here, and we don't know it, we think it's 108 under, they're doing the right thing. So not as egregious as I may have prior thought. This is tough because of the size of the garage, to be honest with you. And I feel like this is a way to at least, I don't want to say control it, but stop it from getting completely out of hand, you know, without any checks and balances.
Mrs. Moran?
So at first glance, I did think the same, that it was a lot. But on the other hand, they could take that space and make it a second bedroom and then allow even more people, so sauna or a bedroom. And my 3-bedroom house is like 900 square feet, so they really could probably pack people in it.
A lot of that space in that area is under a dormer too. So a good bit of that space, like the toilet, it's a 6-foot-high ceiling. So it's a really big dormer where it comes down to about 3 foot in elevation on the 2nd floor in the utmost corners.
Well, and to Mrs. Moran's point, you know, your minimum width on a bedroom by code is 7 feet. Your sauna is 6 foot wide. Is that under the dormer roof?
It is partially under the dormer,
9
yeah.
feet. 9 feet 4 inches.
So a lot of that,
Granted, it's a cramped sauna.
No longer
Then
inviting
guess-
yourself over?
With your handbag.
Mr. Tripp?
I was wondering, how do you calculate 1,082 square feet?
my architect did that. So he looked into the, what constitute as living space, as far as how that's calculated, and he did this calculation for me. So I can't speak to that exactly, probably as well as he could, but as I do recall, there was some article where space under 7-foot-high headspace, like being in a dormered area, is not considered living space.
Say that again, please.
Some thing to the fact that below 7 foot of ceiling height can be considered not living space, such as under the dormer.
Well, if that's the case, then you should show where the dormers.
I do have another plan that does show where the dormer is.
Space averaging, Mr. Mackey?
What's that?
Space averaging?
I was just looking at the raw number, if you do the length times the width.
No, I
without
mean,
taking into
the ceiling height aspect, yeah.
That's true, I'm calling the tax assessor tomorrow.
Yeah.
My ceilings are 7 feet.
Non-conforming.
Mr. Tripp, did I interrupt you?
Shower.
No, he was answering my question, so you interrupted him.
My
Yeah.
apologies.
That's really the best I can do to answer your question. Like I said, I had my architect look into how that space is calculated, and this is what he gave back to me.
Well, I'd be interested in that. Because if you just go by the 32 by 48, we're back to the 1536.
Correct, I understand that.
You know,
But as I understood it, that's not the way that it works for calculating net living space.
well, that's okay, you know? But if you're telling us that, you should be able to demonstrate, you know, the numbers.
Sure. I could also just put out there, I really have no idea what I'm doing here, you know, as a homeowner, this is not what I do. So, bear with me, you know.
Yeah.
Dennis, your question?
No, it doesn't answer it. No, you said that you have drawings that show where the dormers are and, you know, and how it restricts the living space. So, like I said, you're asking for 1,082 square feet.
Mhm.
Now, you should be able to demonstrate where that 1,082 square feet is.
Sure.
You do
I
have the
have a-
plans, sir?
Sure.
Mr. Tripp, you have the plans?
Do I have the
Do
plans?
you have the house plans in front of you, so you could see sort of where the dormers end? Do you have that visual?
This is the one?
No, there should be a different
That
view.
does, that does not show where the roof
Okay,
encroaches on
I included those drawings in the original variance. I did not include those in this package. I have kind of a worksheet that we used here initially.
So we have photos. We're looking at them right now. How did you come up with this design? You said it was out of your hands, so to speak?
My architect, I hired an architect to develop it for me.
The stairs to this are at the back of the garage.
That's correct.
You can see Mr. Tripp, you can see how the roof may encroach on that living space.
Is the deck on the rear of the building too?
Yes.
So the,
Who's your architect?
so
SL House out of Salem, Massachusetts.
the dormers are in the great room?
The dormers face the street. They're over the bedroom.
Over the bedrooms and bathroom,
Oh, okay, I see now.
or the bedroom, I should say.
Mr. Burgess, did you want to see photos of this?
Yes, please.
Mr. Tripp, you all set? Mr. Burgess. All right. Anybody have any other questions? So how much further back are you going? Are you looking to go on this?
To 1,086 feet.
Which tells me how far back on the building. Is it, you know, I see the great room. Is that included in this?
Yes. So that was in the original application. We excluded, to get the building permit going, all the rooms closest to the street, the bedroom, the bathroom, the laundry room.
Mr. Burgess, how you doing there? You all set?
I'm looking. I'm missing something here. The windows they're showing here and the windows that are showing on the plan are slightly different, it looks like. At least the only one I could see. That looks like a single window. This one looks like a double window. Two single windows. And there's another one on the other side, triples. Can't see that at all. I don't have a view of that side. Okay. That's what I can see.
All set? All right. Anybody have any other questions for the applicant?
Can I see the pictures again?
This is,
Mr. Dragani, you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Mr. Dietzel?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All set, Mr. Tripp? You're all set, Mr. Corbett? Yes. Let's, you guys, folks have anything else you want to add?
No, thank you.
Let's make a call to public. We have the phone numbers in front there. At this moment, anybody who wishes to speak to this application for or against, you can call in remotely. Mr. Corbett, if you want to give us the phone numbers there.
Yep, anybody at home who wishes to take part, you're going to dial 646-558-8656. Your meeting ID is 323-909-140. Once in, you're going to press star 9 to raise your hand, and if you're having any technical issues, you're going to dial 603-845-5585, and someone will help you out.
Very good. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of this application, this would be your opportunity to come forward. Seeing no one rise in the room. You have anybody out there, Mr. Provencher?
Seeing none, rise online, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to this application, this would be your opportunity to come forward and be heard. Likewise, if you wish to be heard, press star 9 and we'll get you into the meeting.
I have a question while we wait.
Mrs. Moore?
If these two storage spots were if these were here and not included in the living area, would that be at the 900?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not from what I can see. You can ask the applicant.
That would be about 9 by 9, so talking probably 80 square feet.
Okay.
Well, it's
You don't want my
5
map
by
for
6,
square.
13 feet long and 7.8 feet wide.
All right, nobody out there, Mr. Provencher?
Seeing none,
All
rise,
right,
Mr.
very
Chair.
good. And we will consider that we've met the statute for public input. You folks have anything else you'd like to add?
No, thank you.
I can take a motion and go into
I'll
Mr.
make-
Mackey, you want, I didn't get you, I'm sorry.
Not a problem. If I had anything real important, I would have interrupted you. No, other than, obviously, this was before the board back in March. The original request for the full square footage, the floor plan looks pretty much the same as what was presented in March, but now they're taking into account the dormers and the ceiling that's below 7 feet, that sort of thing. So anyway, and obviously the board had allowed up to 900, so it's really a modification that they're requesting. The variance already exists for the detached part of the ADU, so, which is under construction right now based on a floor plan submitted that made a lot of that front portion there as unfinished storage, so they'd like to finish that off, so. That's it.
Okay, thank you,
I'll make
Mr.
the
Mackey.
motion to go into deliberative sessions, if that's all there is. Or would you like me to rescind that?
No, that's fine.
Good.
Motion's made.
If you want to hear any more from the applicants, we already do that.
You already did that.
Final call? Yeah, okay.
Well, let's pause the motion a second.
All right, I'll pause it. Rescind my motion.
Trying to,
I guess I have a question.
Mr. Tripp,
The drawing of the second floor, I assume that the CATH CLG means cathedral ceiling.
Correct.
So the portion of the building, or the ADU, that's kitchen, dining room, great room, that's all cathedral ceiling.
That's correct.
And the rest of it is, what type of ceiling? Like a
Well,
seven-foot
like a
ceiling?
lowered ceiling, for the rest of it's basically under the dormer.
Say again,
The
please?
rest of it is basically.
Can you speak into the microphone?
The rest of it is under the dormer, so it's got lower ceilings of about 9.
There's flat ceilings in the, there will be flat ceilings, hopefully, in the bathroom to some respect until it intersects the dormer. So it is a fairly kind of complicated flat to an extent and sort of tapers down. The bedroom is a vaulted ceiling. It comes up to about 12 feet to the height of the dormer, with a small flat section about 3 feet wide.
Okay, thank you.
One of my dorm rooms
So
was exactly
the-
this.
This is,
So it's a flat ceiling to a certain degree, but is the toilet on the one side, that's the flat ceiling too?
It's not. That's completely under the dormer. The bottom side of the street side of that toilet room is about 6'2", and it goes up to about under 7 feet.
So that's not living space?
well, that's,
It's in my calculation as living space, but, I mean, technically, it's not living space, no. It's a pretty complicated angle, the way the dormer comes down from the center line of the salt box ceiling
Yeah.
towards
well,
the
that's-
street.
That's why I think it would have been helpful if you could have shown how the living space is impacted by the dormer.
I do apologize for that. This is my first time
Yeah.
doing anything like this, so I kind of stumbled my way through it.
Is the sauna in the restricted area too?
Part of it. Yep, but so about 4 or so feet of the sauna would be flat ceiling, and the last 2 feet, as it heads towards the street, is on a slope.
I'm guessing, Mr. Tripp, that when the roof valley in the front comes down to the front corners, there's probably 4 foot of elevation there. It looks like it's probably a 612 pitch. So for every foot in, it's going up 6 inches.
I think it's actually a 9/12 pitch. I have a drawing of that if you'd like to care to see it.
Well, I think the 912 only makes it more questionable why you need more space, but anyway, I just wanted to reflect that with you, Mr. Tripp.
Yeah.
So,
So is the shower in the
The shower has got a full-height ceiling. so
full
that-
height ceiling?
Yep,
Okay. As is the powder room and the pantry.
that is correct, and those are about 8-foot high flat ceilings.
So anything forward of that is in the,
That's correct.
okay.
and understandably, the section that is really in the boldest print that has the shower, the laundry, that's 605 square feet of floor space. And it's actually not floor space, by the way, that's your outside dimensions. But that's give or take, but on a rough number. Okay, well, I'm ready to continue with Mr. Burgess's motion that he made. It would need to have a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Corbett seconds. All in favor of going into deliberation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none. All right, who wishes to lead off? Anybody?
I'm just going to go back to my original statement. I think this is well beyond what was considered for an ADU.
Okay,
Just straight on.
very good. Mr. Corbett?
No, much like I said before, I don't disagree with Mr. Burgess, but where I differ, the size of this garage is so big. I don't see how you only finish between 800 to 900, and just over time, through living there, through just living on the property, you don't add to it. It's impossible just to leave that much empty space in an area. So I do feel that them coming before us today to get this straightened out, to get this papered. Again, like I said, you don't want to keep adding, you don't want to keep kind of snowballing, but to me, this this shows positive intent. This also ends really anything else that can be done here. You know, kind of Ms. Moran's point, now you gotta rip out a lot more walls, a lot more things to turn this into something more, so I think this is the best way to prevent it from getting out of hand. Or further out of hand, perhaps.
Okay, Mr. Tripp?
Well, I think that our allowance of permitting a 900 square foot ADU is reasonable. I think going to 1082 is beyond the pale.
I agree with that.
Mrs. Moran?
So I agree that it's beyond the ADU numbers. But I also, on the other hand, it's either gonna be space with living room furniture or storage space, so it's hard, but I definitely agree that it's, 900 was a lot to begin with. At what point is it considered two houses on one lot?
Well, for me, the major granting of this was the detached. It's a detached building, and the applicant wishes to utilize it, maybe utilize it to the benefit of their child or their parent, or they're good-natured and they want to help out somebody starting out. But, you know, part of this rests to the architect. You know, if I design a house and I understand what the requirements are, I don't start building a lot of dormers on a roof that are gonna crunch into the floor space. And so, you know, I wrestle with this, and this is elaborate, and it's more than it needs to be. And if it were 2 more feet added to a section to make it work, you know, I could, you know, in a length, 2 foot by 32 feet, that's 64 square feet roughly. You know, I could say, well, okay, I can waiver on that, but this is an elaborate fit up, and the biggest benefit was that the board voted to give them the detached ADU where it was supposed to be attached. And so essentially, when you look at that and you say, okay, I'm gonna give them 1,000 whatever square feet, it just goes back to what Mr. Burgess and myself opened up with. It's another house, and I can't justify giving this kind of expansion just because it's built over the footprint of a garage. So that's my feelings on it. Other than that, we can construct a motion, see where it goes.
One of the other things that I was, you know, originally thinking in this is, we could even bring it back to the 800 square feet, because they're coming in to ask for an adjustment. We can adjust it backwards too, but we're not doing
I don't think
it.
we can do
That's
that.
not what we're gonna do.
No, I know we're not, I'm just saying.
You can't rescind a prior variance because somebody's asking for an amendment to a variance. That's, I don't even think we can threaten that. But I did threaten that last meeting, actually, and I was basically told I couldn't do that.
It's okay for you, but not for me.
No, I'm just letting you know I tried.
All right, well, however this goes, it's subject to obtaining all state town permits and inspections. The meat of that has already been performed, based on the fact that the construction photos in the file, as well as the septic design, we don't rescind or take away. So, are there any other conditions someone would want to have if they were to approve this? Okay, very good. This motion is constructed then. We can come out of deliberation.
I'll make the motion to come out of deliberative session.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Burgess. Mr. Tripp has a second. All in favor of coming out of deliberation, say aye.
Aye.
All righty. Any opposed? Hearing none. Mrs. Moran, you have a motion to read.
I do, thank you. I make a motion on case number 24-140 for Dennis Lincoln to grant a variance to the terms of Article 3, Section 165-25.d of the Town of Derry zoning ordinance, and a modification to zoning board case 24-110 to allow the construction of a detached accessory dwelling unit, ADU, with a proposed living area to be 1,082 square feet, where the prior approval allows 900 square feet, parcel ID 02126, zoned MDR, as presented with the following conditions. We have one, subject to obtaining all state and town permits and inspections. That concludes the reading of the motion. I need a second.
Second.
Very good. Motion is on the table. Mr. Corbett, you have a finding of fact?
Yes, finding a fact for case 24-140. The board found that the applicant was previously granted a variance on March 21st, 2024 to allow the construction of a detached accessory dwelling unit not to exceed 900 square feet in living area. The original request was for 1,536 square feet. However, the board modified the request to allow 900. The applicant is seeking to modify condition 2 of the original variance to allow for 1,082 square feet of living space for the ADU. The board also includes all facts found in the meeting minutes for this application and incorporates all meeting minutes into its finding of facts and decisions. Does anybody have any additions or addendums to make?
Nope.
All right, no gestures there? Okay, very good. Motion's on the floor. All in favor of moving it for a vote, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Mr. Corbett?
I do vote yes.
Very good. Mr. Tripp?
I vote no. I don't believe that the creation of a detached ADU of 1,082 feet is within the intent of the ordinance.
Very good. Mr. Burgess?
Yeah, I believe this is not the spirit of the ordinance, and I don't see any hardship in increasing that from 900 to 1,000.
All right, very good. Mrs. Moran?
Chair, I also vote no. I believe it goes against the spirit of the ordinance.
All right, very good. The chair votes no as well. I don't see the hardship here, and I also don't think that I think it's in opposition to the spirit of the ordinance, so, folks, you're sorry, but you failed 4-1. If you're aggrieved by this or anybody else, they have 30 days to ask this board for reconsideration. After that, recourse will be Superior Court, okay? Thank you. All right, next up, we have other business. We have correspondence. We have our old Town and City magazine back. Beautiful Portsmouth, New Hampshire, if anybody would like to read it. Thank you very much. Haven't seen this in a while.
Oh, no, thought we fell off that.
The mailing list, right?
I was worried.
Next up, we have approval of minutes.
Which ones?
Well, we have 11:21 and 12:05.
Was I here for either one?
Are we all set on?
Yep, members, 1121.
I'm
Okay.
sorry?
I was a member on 1121. I was here.
Yes. Can I get a motion on the approval of minutes? Either as presented?
Yep. I move that we approve the minutes from November 21st, 2024, as
Presented?
as presented, yep.
Very good. I have a second, please.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Next, we have the minutes from 12/5/2024. Any inquiries with that at all? Any inquiries? Okay. All right. Are we all set on those minutes from 12/5?
Make a motion to approve as presented.
All right.
Abstain just because I wasn't there.
I'll second.
And who was
Sure.
here?
I wasn't there.
Did you sit on those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He sat on the different
I did.
cases.
I sat on. I make a
Mr.
motion to accept
Mr.
the,
Obimba did as well, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Should we table it for the next one?
He's going to be gone for a while.
Oh,
So I think that, let's see where this goes, but if there's opposition, we may have to table for 2 months.
2 months.
If there was no there were no comments provided,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
then I think that we're pretty safe to assume there's no comments
Got it.
provided.
Okay, as presented. Very good. Did we get that motion completed?
I make
Yes.
the motion
Okay,
to
and
accept.
We seconded it.
Yeah,
Oh.
Mr. Tripp had it.
Thank you
second
very
it.
much. Okay, all in favor of approval of those minutes as presented from December 5th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. All right, thank you. We have some considerations that we have to start to take under our hats. One more requirement by our legislature and governor, which is to start to adopt or adapt to regional impact determination on cases. Eventually, we'll start to work on this and incorporate it a little more. But essentially, it's when cases come before this board, often it's considered by the code official or zoning administrator or building inspector whether or not a certain application would have regional impact or another community impact. Often, the best example is like the development of a solid waste landfill. If we're going to if we're going to approve, or we have that kind of case before us, we might want to, or we would want to consider the abutting communities and get their input on such applications. There's some other criteria in here as well that would fall under and be considered. But this has been brought to our attention, so gradually we will start to implement this into what we do here. So,
Can you give us a copy of the,
I can, and I apologize because I've been knee-deep in alligators since
No,
this
it's
was
okay.
brought to my attention, but
I didn't say that,
Have it for the next meeting.
I didn't say
that's
that you were negligent. I
No,
was just asking that you
I
could-
didn't take it like that, but
That's what I heard.
I've got big shoulders.
Class really worked.
Do we have anything scheduled for January?
No, nothing came in for January 2nd, so there will be no meeting.
all. Oh, that's a good time not to have one.
Okay, so then we will, we'll sort this out, and then we can email the stuff out,
Okay.
Lucy, when we get a chance, to everybody, and yes, you can have a copy, and I've got big shoulders, so,
and thick skin.
Okay.
And thick skin?
thick skin, that's right. So as we wrap up, Mr. Burgess, you've often liked to chime in at this time of year.
Oh, and yes, I want to wish a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everyone
Very good.
Deal.
and
right.
the audience.
Wait a minute.
What?
Are we still on?
We
Yeah,
are.
Okay.
We are.
I'll reserve any comments because of my
And a
sensitivity.
Happy Hanukkah, since it's in there too also.
All right, well, we're all set to get out of here, so if anybody would like to make that motion.
I'll make the motion that we adjourn.
Very good. Mr. Corbett seconded the motion, Mr. Burgess's motion, so all in favor of adjourning, and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.
What?